There's a storm. The waters are treacherous. Yet a party of pilgrim men and their native guides pilot the shallop forward. They are on a mission. They are searching for a lost child. It's July 1621, 1 year since the Pilgrims first left Holland for America. Plymouth Colony has been an established town for over half a year. Recently, Plymouth has reached out to nearby native communities, including Nemasket at modern Middleborough, Massachusetts, and Somes at modern Warren, Rhode Island. The governor of Plymouth Plantation is William Bradford. Plymouth has made peace with the regional Indian king, Massasoit, of the Pokanoket people at Somes. The Pilgrims have also entered a formal peace alliance with Massasoit. Both parties have common enemies on the other side of Narragansett Bay. The Narragansett tribe, the traditional enemy of the Pokanoket, and the French, the traditional enemy of the English. Let's take a closer look at Plymouth. Midsummer approaches, and the Pilgrims' first growing season is underway. In July 1621, Plymouth has a row of houses along Leyden Street. 20 acres of Indian corn are growing in nearby fields, as are an additional 6 acres of barley and peas. Thus, the Pilgrims, in their first growing season, are raising 3 crops: Indian corn from Native Americans and barley and peas that they have brought from Europe. So there are 26 acres of crops growing. Plymouth has about 50 people residing in town, so there is about 1/2 an acre of field for each person in Plymouth. Indian corn, or maize, is new to the English, that crop native to America. But the corn is growing well, nurtured by herring and shadfish in the soil, a method taught by Squanto. But while the first fruits are growing in Plymouth, an emergency unfolds. Late in July, one of John Billington's sons lost himself in the woods. Bradford asks his native friends if they know of the lost boy. Massasoit, sachem of the Pokanoket people, has heard the boy has gone east along the Cape. Governor Bradford is concerned. While Plymouth has established good relations to the towns to the west, including Nemasket and Somes, things are different in the east. Along Cape Cod are the Nauset people. The Nauset are the people whom the Pilgrims had skirmished with during their early time at Cape Cod. In addition, the Pilgrims had also taken corn from the Nauset in those early winter days. There is a strong chance that young Billington has wandered into dangerous territory. But Governor Bradford must recover the youth. Bradford orders 10 Englishmen to sail east on the shallop along Cape Cod to look for the lost boy. Along with the English is their interpreter Squanto, also called Tisquantum, and Tokamahamon, whom Bradford and Winslow call a special friend. Soon a storm arose. The storm forces the men to seek shelter. They pull into the harbor to wait out the stormy night. The shallop is at Cummaquid near modern Barnstable, Massachusetts. The shallop remains an anchor at the middle of the bay, where the men can remain dry in the boat. Morning arrives. The men see natives collecting lobsters on the shore. Squanto and Tokamahamon go to shore and speak with them. They have learned the lost boy is at Nauset. The locals invite the English ashore. 4 Englishmen stay with the boat, and 6 Englishmen and the native guides go to the shore. The locals lead them to their sachem, Iyanough. Winslow and Bradford describe Iyanough as personable, gentle, courteous, and fair. An old woman approaches. She bursts into tears at the sight of the English. The men learn that she had lost 3 of her sons, stolen by Hunt's raid in 1614. Squanto, now standing there with the Pilgrims, was also captured during that same raid by Hunt. The English apologize, saying Hunt was a bad man, and that all the English that heard of it condemned him for the same. The men have dinner at Cummaquid. After dinner, the Pilgrims go back to the boat. Iyanough and 2 of his men come along. The men pilot the shallop for Nauset. Let's take a wider view. The Nauset are located along Cape Cod. Iyanough's people have confirmed that the lost boy is now with the Nauset. The shallop continues on, following east along Cape Cod, a reverse of the journey the shallop had taken the previous December. The English are fully aware that they are now approaching the people that they had skirmished with and taken corn from in the previous winter. As the sun descends, the shallop approaches the Nauset near modern Eastham, Massachusetts. Iyanough and his men, along with Squanto, go ashore. Suddenly many Nauset appear on the shore. They want the English to bring the shallop onto the beach. The English are greatly outnumbered, and they are fearful that the Nauset will take revenge on them. The English nervously pull the boat onto the beach. The Nauset crowd comes forward. The Pilgrims attempt to control the crowd, wanting only 2 men to approach at a time. 2 natives approach the shallop. One of them is the owner of the corn that the Pilgrims had taken from the year before. The Pilgrims promise the man restitution for the stolen corn, saying that he is welcome to come to Plymouth, or the English would bring him the corn to Nauset. The sun lowers in the sky. The Nauset sachem Aspinot arrives. He comes with 100 Nauset warriors, some of whom may have been in the skirmish with the Pilgrims the previous year. Half of the warriors approach the shallop, walking to the shallow waters. The English stand fast. One of Aspinot's men comes forward. The man is carrying young Billington. The boy is unharmed. The child is turned over to the English. Peace is then made between the 2 groups. The English offer Aspinot a knife as a peace offering. Aspinot and his 100 warriors depart. The Pilgrims are lucky. Despite the actions of Hunt's slave raid, despite the stolen corn, despite the musket fire at first encounter, the Nauset returned young Billington unharmed. The separatists must have felt relief. As Christians, they knew they had taken corn from someone else's storage, and they had wanted to make good on their error. In turn, the Nauset had shown compassion on the lost youth. The boy returned safe. Now the 2 people, the English and the Nauset, who had started on rough footing the year before, have met face to face and made peace. But how did a boy get from Plymouth all the way around Cape Cod to Nauset? There's some 50 miles between Plymouth and Nauset. Apparently, young Billington had lost himself in the woods. He had wandered alone for 5 days, living on berries. He finally came to the town of Mayflower, several miles south of Plymouth. The people at Mayflower then sent him across the bay to the Nauset on Cape Cod. But the boy is now safe in the shallop. Nevertheless, the Indian interpreters have bad news for the English. From the west, the mighty Narragansetts have attacked the Pokanoket. Massasoit himself has been captured. This news is bad for 2 reasons. First, Massasoit is an ally. If he indeed was attacked by the Narragansett, Plymouth is, by the terms of their alliance, at war with Narragansett. Second, Plymouth is possibly in serious danger. Most of the healthy grown men from Plymouth are on the shallop here at Nauset, across Cape Cod from Plymouth. Plymouth, filled with mostly women and children, is undefended. The shallop points towards Plymouth, but the winds are against them. They pilot the boat to Cummaquid at modern Barnstable. They stay there again with Iyanough. The next morning, they sail out, arriving back at Plymouth that night. Plymouth is safe. However, the men hear that Massasoit has indeed been captured by the Narragansett. They also learn that at Nemasket, one of Massasoit's sachems, Corbitant, has turned against them. It is feared that Corbitant is in conversation with the Narragansett. The renegade sachem Corbitant opposes the peace between the Massasoit and the English, and he is also deriding Squanto and other natives that are friendly to the English. Tokamahamon goes to Namasket to speak to the renegade sachem. Squanto and Hobbammock also follow to Namasket, hoping to hear about Massasoit. Soon, Tokamahamon, Squanto, and Hobbammock are in Namasket, but Corbitant discovers the outsiders are in his town. Corbitant's men surround Squanto's wigwam. Corbitant knows that if Squanto is taken out, the English will lose their interpreter. Corbitant captures Squanto. Hobbammock sees Corbitant holding a knife to Squanto's chest. Hobbammock runs back to Plymouth, believing Squanto is dead. Hobbammock is covered in sweat. He tells Governor Bradford that Corbitant has killed Squanto. The news is shocking. The death of Squanto would be a crushing blow for the English, as they had depended on Squanto for his interpretive skills and farming knowledge. Governor Bradford meets with his council. He comes up with a plan. Though it is dangerous, and they might be outnumbered by Corbitant, they could not let Corbitant harm Squanto without response. Otherwise, the natives will not side with the Pilgrims again. They must take a gamble for a friend. It's August 14, 1621, in the old-style calendar used by the Pilgrims, or August 24, 1621, in the new-style calendar used today. The men of Plymouth have assembled, bearing muskets. Miles Standish will lead 10 men to Nemasket. Hobbammock will go as their guide. If Squanto has indeed been killed, Standish is to kill Corbitant in retribution. The men journey to Namaschet in the rain. They remain a few miles outside the town, waiting for the cover of darkness, and they formulate their plan of attack. It's midnight, August 15th. The party moves into Namaschet. Hobbammock guides the men to Corbitant's wigwam. The musketeers beset the house around. Standish instructs the men to let no one escape the house. The trap has been set. Standish and Hobbammock storm into the house. The attackers yell Corbitant's name. Panicked cries call out. Some escape out of the house. 2 muskets discharge. Inside the wigwam, the Indians are too frightened to speak. The attackers calm their voices. Hobbammock tells the inhabitants not to stir. He assures them that they are only there for Corbitant, to avenge the death of Squanto. No woman or child will be harmed. Nerves cool. The natives explain that Corbitant has left, but Squanto is living. Hobbammock calls out for his friends, Squanto and Tokamahamon. Squanto and Tokamahamon come to the house. They are indeed alive. The men spend the night in the house. Morning light emerges. It is clear that Corbitant's faction has left the area. The villagers of Nemasket have gathered. Standish speaks, with his native interpreters there for translation. The English tell the townspeople that, although Corbitant has now escaped us, yet there was no place should secure him and his from us if he continued his threatening us and provoking others against us, who had kindly entertained him, and never intended evil towards him till he now so justly deserved it. The English also say that if Massasoit does not safely return from Narragansett, or if Corbitant attacks any of their friends, the English will have their revenge on Corbitant. Now the English wanted to capture Corbitant, not frighten the villagers in Nemasket. With a looming conflict against the Narragansett possibly in the wind, the English want to repair their relationship with Nemasket. In the ambush the previous night, a man and a woman had been wounded. Standish offers to bring the wounded to Plymouth for healing. The English, their native friends, and a few wounded villagers go back to Plymouth. The English have now made multiple trips from Plymouth to Nemasket, that native town now within Plymouth's widening sphere. Word has spread among the nearby communities about Standish's raid in Nemasket. Standish's show of force gains the respect of many local sachems, who now see the English as a party that backs its friends. Peace with the locals actually increases. Visitors from the island of Capawack, modern Martha's Vineyard, come for peace. Massasoit is safe and back in Somes. Even Corbitant, though now shy of the English, makes peace with Plymouth through Massasoit. Indeed, the Pilgrims' forceful defense of Massasoit and Squanto has shown the region that the English will stand by their allies. Nevertheless, Plymouth hears from their native allies that the Massachusett tribe to the north are threatening Plymouth. The Pilgrims decide to initiate contact and go amongst them, partly to see the country, partly to make peace with them. Thus, a new party will be sent to the north to find the Massachusett and begin communication with them. September 18, 1621. 10 Englishmen, Squanto, and 2 other native interpreters prepare to leave Plymouth. The shallop is made ready for the trip north. They wait for the middle of the night to take advantage of the tide. Darkness falls. The men pull the boat into the waters. It's midnight, September 19th. The shallop sets out from Plymouth Harbor, setting a course north along the coastline. They row the whole night and through the next day. The journey north from Plymouth to the Massachusetts homeland is about 40 miles. Finally, they arrive at the bottom of a large bay near modern Point Allerton. It's late and the men are tired. They sleep in the shallop. It's morning, September 20th. The men guide the shallop into the bay, landing possibly at or near present Squantum. 2 sentinels are set to guard the shallop, and the others go on to find the locals. On shore, they find many lobsters that had been collected by the locals. The men meet a woman who is coming for the lobsters. Squanto speaks with her. She tells Squanto where the town is located, and Squanto relays the town's position to the Englishmen. Then Squanto continues forward to the town, and the rest of the party returns to the shallop. The English pilot the boat toward town. Soon the shallop makes landfall again. The crew have arrived near the native town. The English call this bay Massachusett Bay, after the locals. They meet the local sachem. He is Aspinot, and he is under Massasoit. The discussion goes to politics. Aspinot feels threatened by the Tarentines, and the nearby squaw sachem, or the Massachusetts Queen, is an enemy to him. The Massachusetts explained that the Tarentines, whose homeland was in Penobscot River area of modern Maine, would come in at harvest time and steal their corn. So we can now see how widespread the interactions are among the natives, as the Massachusetts Indians near modern Boston, Massachusetts, are being raided by Tarentines from Penobscot River in modern Maine. The distance by shoreline from Penobscot Bay in modern Maine to modern Boston Harbor is some 180 miles. It also shows how far and wide the Pilgrims' knowledge is growing in their first year around their new home. Through Squanto's translation, the English promise Aspinot safeguard from his enemies if he acknowledges himself as a man of King James. Aspinot acknowledges that he is a man for King James. The sachem now feels strengthened by his new friends who bear muskets. He will bring the company to the region of the squaw sachem. So the party goes back to the shore and boards the shallop. They cross yet further over the bay. Bradford and Winslow describe the bay as very large and hath at least 50 islands in it. It takes the whole day to cross the bay. They do come to the other side, seemingly at or near modern Charlestown, but they find no one there. The men sleep again in the shallop. The sun rises. It's September 21st. The shallop goes to shore. Charlestown, where the shallop is at shore, is here. The area now is dominated by Boston development. In addition, the modern city has had significant development into the harbor. We will remove the development to bring it back to 1621. The men march into the land near the Mystic River toward the direction of modern Medford, Massachusetts. Some 3 miles in, near modern Medford, they find a place where corn has recently been harvested, but there are no people. A mile further, they find the house of the late king Namaschet, a former king in the area. Namaschet had recently been killed by the Tarentines. His house is different than other native houses. It is on top of a hill, the house set on poles 6 feet from the ground. Soon, near modern Medford, they find a fort built by King Namaschet. The fort is built of poles 30 or 40 feet long, stuck in the ground, enclosing a circle. A trench to chest-high level ran on both sides of the wall. A house is inside where the Indian king is buried. A mile further, atop a hill, is yet another fort. The English learned that this is where the once powerful sachem Namaschet was killed by the Tarentines. The death of King Namaschet transferred authority to his wife, the Squaw Queen, the woman the Pilgrims are now trying to find. The area had been uninhabited since Namaschet's death. The explorers stay in this area near modern Medford, sending 2 of their native interpreters to search for the locals. The 2 native guides advance into the country. They soon find women. The women are carrying corn. The women are fearful, but the interpreters ensure them not to be afraid. Soon, the rest of the Plymouth party comes forward, and the women soon feel safe. The women boil cod for the visitors. Then a local man approaches. The man informs the Pilgrims that the Queen is not nearby. Squanto is suspicious of the locals, but the English say they will do no harm unless first provoked. The Massachusett provide the visitors with beaver skins, a trade item that Europeans consider high value. The men return to the shallop. Their adventure brought them into contact with the Massachusett and other peoples to the north. They also explored Massachusetts Bay and located the Mystic River. The newly found harbor makes a strong impression on the Pilgrims. Winslow and Bradford say, "Better harbors for shipping cannot be than here are. At the entrance of the bay are many rocks, and in all likelihood very good fishing ground." The Pilgrims pull the shallop back toward Plymouth, having had their first glimpse of the area that will one day be Boston Harbor. Let's return to Plymouth. September becomes October. It's harvest time in this northern latitude. The fields around Plymouth are ready for reaping. 20 acres of Indian corn and 6 acres of barley and peas have come to season. The corn has grown well, and the barley has grown sufficiently, but the peas are parched by the sun. So 20 acres of corn with a few acres of barley are harvested. 1 year previous, the Pilgrims were on the Mayflower in the Atlantic Ocean. Now they are harvesting a new crop in a new town in a new world. In addition to the harvested crops, Governor Bradford sent 4 men to go fowling, so we might after a more special manner rejoice together, after we had gathered the fruit of our labors. The musketeers secure 4 birds for the harvest festival. Bradford says that the first harvest time had a great store of wild turkeys and duck. Massasoit and some 90 Pokanoket join the harvest festival. Plymouth has about 50 English persons, and the 90 Pokanoket mean that 140 people are present at this harvest Thanksgiving. Plymouth is still a collection of 7 completed houses and 4 common buildings, so the gathering of 140 people was likely an outside festival. Massasoit's men bring 5 deer to the festival, and the feasting between English and Pokanoket goes on for 3 days. So the first harvest, the first Thanksgiving, had corn, turkey, duck, and venison. Edward Winslow says, "We have found the Indians very faithful in their covenant of peace with us, very loving and ready to pleasure us. We often go to them, and they come to us." Governor Bradford said that the first harvest was so plentiful that many afterwards write so largely of their plenty here to their friends in England, which were not feigned but true reports. In less than a year since their arrival across the ocean, the Pilgrims have established a town, planted many acres of crops, made peace with their neighbors, and celebrated their first harvest Thanksgiving.